Welcome to the Nature Positive Dialogues, a special series of live broadcasts and interviews from COP30 in Belém, broadcast by We Don't Have Time in partnership with the Nature Positive Initiative, where we delve into the nature-climate interconnectivity and look at how joined-up solutions can help bring about a prosperous, healthy, environmentally friendly future that's good for people, nature, and the climate. And I'm joined today by Minister Stephen Guilbeault, Canada's Minister of Identity, Culture and Nature, and also Parks Canada. And in 2022, as Minister of Environment and Climate Change, Stephen Guilbeault, hosted the UNCBD COP15 in Montreal under a Chinese presidency, bringing the world together to advance action for nature on land and at sea, which of course culminated in the coming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, where this goal to halt and reverse nature loss is enshrined. So Minister, can I ask you first, how can Canada translate the nature positive ambition and goal at national level?
So since 2018, we've invested historic amounts in nature conservation, $12 billion to advance both oceans and terrestrial conservation. With a very specific angle in Canada. Obviously, we see conservation also as a way of working on reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. So all of the conservation projects we do now, we do in partnerships, whether it's an urban park, a national park, a marine protected area, we do in collaboration with Indigenous peoples.
No, absolutely. And if we think about this, so the Global Biodiversity Framework was agreed in 2022. We're now 2025, halfway to 2030. What progress has been made, and what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that are hampering progress, but also what will be the key enablers to really bring about the change that's needed for that transition?
Well, I think what is true of Canada is true of many places in the world. We're at roughly 14% terrestrial protection, 16%, almost 17 oceans. So we have a long way to go to get to 30 by 30. That being said, we know that there are about 16% of conservation projects that are already being planned. The challenge is that so far in Canada, 90% of the investment for those conservation projects have come from the federal government. We only control 6% of the lands in Canada. More than 60% are controlled by our provinces or states, and 6% by Indigenous peoples. So we need to make sure that everyone is contributing on the one hand to the effort, but also how do we innovate in terms of financing? Just relying on government funding for conservation projects will not allow us to get to where we need to go as fast as we need to go. So we are working on new innovative financial mechanism to bring in philanthropies, and we've done that with Project Finance for Permanence, for example, which are Indigenous-led conservation projects where the federal government and philanthropies fund together very large conservation initiatives. One of them is in the Northwest Territories of Canada, 23 Indigenous nations, the territorial government, the federal government, $300 million of investment by the federal government, 100 millions from philanthropies. It represents 1 million square kilometer of conservation, 4 times the size of the United Kingdom. So we can do some of these projects, but we need also to figure out how do we bring in the private sector, the financial sector into nature conservation. And what is true in Canada is true globally as well. We need to figure out these things both at the domestic and international level.
Absolutely. And here we are in Belém at COP30, UNFCCC COP30. I believe you've attended 1 or 2 COPs, climate COPs before. What would you say are some of the really critical elements of progress and actions that we need to see in these days in Belém at the climate COP as a key stepping stone towards next year? We have, of course, it's a Rio trio with also the desertification COP and a critical biodiversity COP happening, COP17. What progress needs to happen these days?
So I was at COP1, Climate COP1 in Berlin in 1995. So I'm either very optimistic or some kind of a masochist for coming back year after year. That being said, I mean, we have to recognize that even if we're not achieving our target, whether on nature or climate, progress is being made. We are seeing more and more countries around the world do more efforts to protect, to restore nature, to include it on their balance sheet. one of the challenges that we have as government is every time we make an investment for nature conservation, it's a cost. And on our books, on our financial books, there's no return, there's no asset that's attached to it. Obviously, we know that's not the case. I mean, nature provides major assets to peoples, to the environment. So how do we do a better job of including this as part of our accounting system? And how can we develop financial model that take that into account so that we can progress more rapidly in nature conservation, nature restoration all around the world, keeping in mind that in many of these areas, these projects will be done with indigenous peoples who are still stewards to about 80% of the intact lands in the world that we want to protect.
You mentioned indigenous peoples, and here at COP30 we're hearing about this concept of mutirao, which is finding collective solutions to common problems. What do you think we can learn from indigenous peoples? How can we be inspired by their wisdom and vast knowledge?
They have been doing conservation for ages. They know how to do that. In Canada, we started in 2017 a program that's called the Nature Guardians Program, where the federal government funds projects in indigenous communities across the country of nature guardians. They are basically our ears and our boots on the ground. Each community tells us what they need, so it's not us telling them, oh, this is what you should be doing. We funded more than 250 initiatives across the country, and now First Nations in Canada have the ownership of the project. Federal government doesn't decide which project gets funded. They do. We're working to do the same thing with our Métis and Inuit people as well. I think we need to equip them with the necessary resources to continue doing what they have been doing for time immemorial, and at the same time we need to learn more from their teachings.
Yes, and you mentioned earlier optimism. We're either masochists or optimists being here. I think if we're standing here, it's because combination of both, or realistic optimists and kind of driven by a sense of hope for a better future. And just as one last question I wanted to ask you, I know you're an avid cyclist, so you love spending time in nature yourself, but what does nature positive mean to you?
Well, it means that we will live in a world where we realize all the contribution that nature brings to our society and obviously to our planet. It means we will stop looking at investment in nature protection and nature restoration as a cost, but we'll look at it as an investment into our future, into a healthy planet, into healthy people. I mean, how can we hope to have thriving communities around the world if our development is done at the expense of the state of the planet, of nature, of climate, of desertification? And I think when we start shifting that mentality from cost to investment, to benefits to our society, I think that we will start making huge progress in terms of where we're all hoping to go.
We've all got a lot of work to do, but yeah, hope it's a good few days for you. Thank you very much again for joining me, Minister Stephen Guilbeault from Canada.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Gemma.